At 6 o'clock on Tuesday, December 17th, I will call the monthly meeting of the Village Board of Trustees for Sister Bay. Order, roll call.
Roscoe. Here. Shampoo. Here. Werner. Here. Hart.
Here.
Hosen. Here. Berto. Here. And Bell.
Here. Motion to approve the agenda would be in order. Motion by Warner, second by Hart. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes for November 19th and December 12th. If there's any correction, we'll separate them out, otherwise we could have a motion to approve. Any additions, deletions, subtractions?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Berto, second by Roscoe, that's for both sets.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to the public hearing for the utility rate study. Oh, sorry, thank you. So comments, correspondence, concerns from the public. So we did get one with two late. One was in there and it was also the late. The correspondence we got.
Yeah, the correspondence in the packet was online offerings from the league on new elected official training. So if you were interested in any of that, we can set up a subscription for that. And then I forwarded you an email from Rodney Hateen regarding taxes.
Is there anybody out in the public that would like to make a comment?
Richard Burris, 2340 Maple Drive in Sister Bay. Before I make a comment or raise a question, I have a question for you, Mr. Chairman. Nate, is if you have comments specific to an agenda item, do you speak to those issues at that time, or is this the time when you speak to all of the issues? This is the only time that the public has.
So it depends on how we choose to operate it. I mean, if we have a number of people that are going to speak about a particular item, then we have deferred it to there, especially if there's going to be new information presented. I would like to take the public comment at the front end of this meeting, seeing we don't have a great deal of it. So if you wanted to speak, now would be the appropriate time.
Okay. Well, I had a couple questions specific to the utility rate study. And
Well, I should, that one actually, because it's a public hearing, that would be, my apologies, Nick. That would be for the public hearing for that particular item. The rest of them will then we turn out of it.
okay, I have the comment to the meeting last week. And this is specific to item 8, sub A, B, C, D, and E. I will restate my objection to the current proposed spending in the village and formally request the board immediately freeze all capital spending projects pending further evaluation by members of the town or the village. One of the things that I heard last week, and I wasn't at the Thursday meeting, but I was at the meeting previous when we discussed possible allowance proposal moving forward. And I listened to Chairman Denise on finance talk about the amount of cuts that were made to last year's budget. And it really froze me in my step. She said, I think she used the words bare bones cuts to get us to that 461 or whatever the rate was. And here's my point. We're not even into the $20 million of spending yet. And we are already bare bones cutting. And, you know, I look at the amount of money that's coming from Destination Door County and from the state and from the room tax and from the Pratt and all of these in totality have just furthered spending in the village. Well, we should be really reeling in monies and saying we're in really good shape. We're cutting to the bone to try to get us to where we were last year. 40% increase in our budget, it just doesn't make sense. So if I have to do this through an absolute proposal or a petition or whatever, but that's what I'm asking for tonight, is you move on to item 8, that you really take a serious look and say, let's just stop for a moment. I realize we have a project in the works, perhaps some would say some projects in the works, but I think we can really halt and say, let's take a breath. Let's figure out where we are. Let's make sure we have money moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Is there anyone else? Anyone online? Six, the public hearing for the utility rate study. You wanna start with this, Megan?
Yeah, I could just give a brief overview. So it was recommended to move to public hearing, the utility sewer, rate increase. We try to look at this historically every 2 years. This year we partnered with, Clifton and Larson and Allen, and then Robert E. Lee to perform the rate study, outside of ourselves performing it, because, the previous finance director used to perform that. It was recommended to use an outside source this year, by Liberty Grove, and that's just what we decided to do. They came back with a recommendation. We met and talked about it at the utility committee meeting. And we decided to do a larger increase to help curb the, eventual increase that will come from the need for a capital addition of a sludge processing facility in Sister Bay. So in 2025, our sludge hauling expenses are estimated to increase 117%, due to Sturgeon Bay no longer being able to accept our sludge. We have to drive it all the way down to Green Bay for further treatment and disposal. I found record that this has been a problem since 2014. The Utilities Committee has been talking about doing something, to lower the cost of sludge processing and hauling, and to make it something that's sustainable for the community, that we don't have to rely on outside sources, because the costs are always going to increase. They've increased every year, and now we're looking at 117% increase, and we have to do something. So that is the main reason for this, sewer rate increase, is to help prepare for that large capital improvement item, to hopefully at some point be able to install sludge processing equipment and then turn that into a revenue source by treating other communities in this area's sludge. So that is the background information. Is there any questions?
So I just want to get it out there, so anybody that hasn't heard about this before. The increase is related to the distance of the hauling. This is not related to a change in volume or any other practice. It's simply that Sturgeon Bay is not accepting it and has to go to Green Bay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and we're just preparing for a capital improvement item and trying to get those funds instead of just doing like a 75% increase when we need to do that improvement. It makes it more palatable to do smaller increases, and then hopefully at some point we'll get to a point where we can decrease the rate.
Megan, the 117% increase, what is that in dollars?
I am budgeting, or I budgeted, 100,000 for next year.
180,000.
Yep. And then, historically, this year we budgeted 75,000, and I just got the total number that was spent on sludge hauling this year. It was 65,000.
So the actual was 65, okay. Okay, and the increase that we're asking for is gonna bring us what in revenue the first year?
That was in my report.
Right, I just wanna verify it.
Yep. So based on these increases, it's 149,712.45 from sewer service revenues. And then hauled waste revenues would increase by $51,983. And those projections are based on 2023's flow numbers and sales, not based on 2024, because we don't have all the revenues yet, because we just did our last quarter
Okay,
meter reading.
so you're assuming flat, or would it be likely could they go down or up? We don't know.
It's a projection. I'm assuming going up, but you never know.
Does it usually go up?
Yep.
All right, so that's a $201,695 combined, right? 149,700 and 51.
51,983. Yep.
Okay. And do we have any information? Did you check with any other municipalities on what historically they've been doing? I know we're Liberty Grove, but do you know what anybody else is doing?
I've talked to Bert and Don from Baylor's Harbor and Ephraim.
Yeah,
They were reaching out to a contact that had the potential of bringing dewatering equipment to your facility and then dewatering your sludge and transporting it down to Kiwanee and disposing of it. They were charging, I think, 23 cents a gallon, but the condition of that was that you have to hold your sludge until August. We can't hold our sludge until August. We don't have big enough tanks to do that.
Okay.
So that is it doesn't do anything for us
Okay,
based on the timeline that you provided. So I know Don in Bailey's Harbor was planning on doing that. When I talked to him, he was like, I don't know if we even can, but we're gonna try.
Mhm.
But otherwise, everybody else, backup plan is Green Bay.
Okay, and the last time we did an increase was in
2022.
22. And what percent was that? 25%?
It was all over the board. So the old rate increase was done, based on, it was a different model. It was done off of flows, capacity numbers. It was done off of flows, BOD, TSS, and total phosphorus numbers. And then, that allocated different costs up or down for each account. It was a very convoluted process and very difficult to understand. Even Pasha had difficulties doing it, and that's why it was recommended that we should have an outside source provide us a new model to follow. And then the utilities committee decided that we wanted to proceed with a simplified rate study, which you just look at cash flows, revenues and expenditures and adjust for what you need to cover for the next year.
And am I reading it right that we would contract Robert E. Lee every year to do this?
No, so
Sorry.
we, they provided us, as part of the contract, they provided us with an Excel model that we can plug our numbers into every year during the budget process
Yeah,
and assess if we need to go a rate increase, a rate decrease, whatever it based on the numbers.
based on an Excel spreadsheet with formulas in it. that
Yep,
would get you where you need to be. Okay, okay. Okay, and then do you, back to the other municipalities, have they charged increases in utilities as a result of whether it's sludge or something else going on?
Yes, I found that Bailey's Harbor has an increase that they just posted. Ephraim increased. Sturgeon Bay just learned that they increased. I haven't found anything yet on Fish Creek.
Okay.
Or Egg Harbor yet, so.
Okay.
Everybody else is.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any questions from the board? And at 6:13 PM, I will open it up to the public hearing.
Richard Burrows, 234 Maple Drive. I can address, first question, I guess it's a comment, but in this particular sheet that came out, November 18, it talks about the typical Mr. Bay resident, and I would not pretend to be a typical Sister Bay resident. However, it talks about the quarterly charge of $206.70 for 10,000 gallons used. And I realize there are additional charges. You're talking about sewer rates here, so there's water and there's fire protection, etc. But for the last 2 years, since 22, I have used 10,000 gallons per quarter. And my rate is $263.75, and with the increases that are being proposed, $292.94. And I believe that that's the best deal going in Sister Bay. I'm very appreciative of the Surrey Water Department. I think we have great service and great water. I bring that up only for factual information. I do, however, have 2 questions specific to the Board of Trustees sheet that came out, and this is just for me, self-satisfaction. I note that the Sister Bay sewer fixed charges are to increase to $175.49 per quarter, while the Liberty Grove Sanitary District increases to $143.75. And conversely, the water sewer charges are $4.86 per thousand, and in Liberty Grove they're $4.49. Can you tell me why the person that doesn't own the plant, doesn't own the equipment, and doesn't own the property pays less than the person who does?
So if you look on this summary of user charges sheet, if you look at the fixed charges, Sister Bay, fixed charges, Liberty Grove. Sister Bay has an additional line on their charges before you get to that total of $175.49. On Sister Bay side, residents pay for Sister Bay collection system maintenance as well. Liberty Grove assesses that cost to their own residents separately, and they assess their own rate outside of what we charge them for our services. So that, while it looks lower on our sheet, they're getting charged separately from Liberty Grove through their rate program.
The tax bill,
Yeah, however they work it out, I don't know, but they get charged separately because we don't charge them for the maintenance of the collection system specifically. So that's why it looks lower on paper. And if you look, the difference between the Sister Bay collection is $31.74. And if we remove that line from the Sister Bay side, then we would have the same rate as Liberty Grove. So it's just that one difference. Yep.
and my other question, I think, is addressed to the board, and, again, on your road to Sister Bay sheet, Board of Trustees, paragraph 5, this starts with the last sewer rate increase and adjustment was implemented in 22. The final sentence there is, the wastewater fund took an additional debt related to the settlement of a lawsuit. Could you explain specifics of that lawsuit and what the settlement costs were?
That was the lawsuit between Sister Bay and Liberty Grove. I don't have the exact cost of what it was, but it was settled in 22. So it's had the adjustment since then. I certainly can get that.
So, and the reason I ask is because, you know, you hear things, and I don't mean to hear whispers, but there's talk of these fees that were paid back to developers and back to people that were supposed to be held. That is not part of this increase.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I would just like to make a comment that, don't quote me, Dick, but I thought it was somewhere around $250,000.
It was somewhere in there, but I wanna have it before I misspeak.
Right. But just to give you something that's my vague recollection in that ballpark somewhere.
And without going to the specifics, I'm guessing you probably can't. Were the items in that lawsuit settled, and so we won't see these types of.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, that is, we finally put that to bed. That was
Thank you.
the board's opinion at the time that that was worth it. Anyone else would like to speak for the public comment on the utility rate study?
Megan, I have a question when you were responding to Dick's. You said Liberty Grove pays their own fees, or they
assess their own cost for the collection system, and then they assess that onto their customers through their own rates.
but did you say Sister Bay was for maintenance and collection?
Yeah, it's for just the collection system, so like the lift stations, the pipes that get the sewer to the wastewater treatment plant. We add that charge to our fixed fees in Sister Bay.
And do we maintain the ones in Liberty Grove?
Yes, we do.
And
We
then-
bill them and then they assess
So
that charge.
they assess their residents and then they pay us?
Yep, yep,
Okay. So we are seeing
yeah,
their money
yep, yep.
somewhere.
Every department and every employee has a charge out rate, so whoever is doing the work. And I believe it's their hourly wage plus benefits,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly.
Yep.
That is what then Liberty Grove is being billed.
Okay, I wanted to make sure Liberty Grove wasn't just collecting
Oh, yeah.
money, and so the residents are paying the same, but we're not seeing it, so we are seeing.
Sorry, Megan, I'm sorry, one other question. So Robert E. Lee gave us a spreadsheet to use that we're gonna implement every year,
Mhm.
right? But it says it's recommended, every 2 years, the village reviews their sewer rates. Would that continue to be the practice, even though we're using this spreadsheet every year?
I guess that would be a determination that I need to bring to the utilities committee if we want to move to an annual review or a biennial, keep it going that way. It's a discussion that needs to be had still. But we have the option to do it yearly if we want to.
So let's say, I mean, you could do the review, it's just, what I was wondering is if the review reveals that there needs to be another increase, I
Mhm.
just wanna understand that, but we don't know.
Well, we kind of do know.
Yeah,
we do?
At
Okay.
the the utilities meeting, I don't know, was it the last one we
Yeah,
had
yep.
out at the utilities
Yep.
plant? Where this was presented to the committee, the rate study, and, it talked about, the recommendation that came through was that, I think we keep rates the same for this next year. And then the following 3 years, we make increases. And so we had a lot of conversation about that, and we decided we need to start earlier, hopefully end earlier, and see where we're at. But because it was proposed having 3 increases 3 years in a row, I would imagine that we will at least do the study. We'll do the worksheet every year
For 26.
and see where we fall and what's going on, and determine whether or not we will have an increase as they thought it would be for 3 years in a row.
Okay, and this is to increase reserves,
Yes,
among other things.
yes.
Megan, I have a question. The 15%, is that gonna be every year until the sludge processing?
It depends on the workbook every year and actual revenue accounts, so we'll have to assess every year and then determine what we need to cover that cost for the capital.
Just as a
project.
Sister Bay resident, I'm just saying it's coming out horrible. I mean, these sewer rates.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's just-
$300
yeah.
every quarter.
Yeah. I totally understand. It's just when we're looking at 117% increase to get rid of our sludge, we have to do something. It's not sustainable.
There's not another option.
See that?
Otherwise, we're gonna end up paying even more in the long run if we don't do anything.
And then we're always relying on
We're always
somebody else
relying.
taking our sludge.
Yeah,
If
and then
something were to happen to Green Bay,
exactly, then we're going to Appleton, who knows where we're going? And then fuel surcharges, transportation costs, it's a thicker sludge, so there's more volume of it. So it's a problem. And it needs to be dealt with, and we need to start looking at getting these increases to be able to deal with it when we have to.
Megan has been meeting with a consultant to look at a sludge processing facility. She's looked at the dryers, all the ways that she can treat it in-house and then ultimately get that cost down.
Yeah.
But of course, with that, there are expenses. You have to pay the consultant and everybody to actually get you to that point. She's already had meetings about writing grants, USDA grants to try and fund that. There is a match there, so I think we will see increases for a little while, but then if she's successful, it should come back.
Yeah. I am very hopeful, on finding funding for this. We already received, preliminary approval. And we were placed on a priority list for the Clean Water Fund grant process, for the 2026 budget cycle. That we can resubmit every year, however long we need until we get to that eventual project. But that would be huge to have that funding backing this project.
Who administers that grant?
It's the DNR.
So if we got the dryer, is there a revenue opportunity there for other
Yes.
villages?
So my hope is marketing this as a regional biosolids sludge processing facility where we, tell other communities in Upper Door County that they can transport their sludge to us. We'll dewater it, we'll process it. And then, once it's dry in a Class A biosolid, it's basically Milorganite and you can sell it. And there's a lot of golf courses up here that I think would really benefit from a fertilizer of good quality. And I think we would find people that would take it immediately
Okay.
and would pay decent money for
We
it.
would have the capacity, I know this is getting in the weeds and it's a future discussion, but the capacity to
Yeah.
take that and stuff like that would need to be considered, but
Mhm.
okay.
At 6:24, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, then on to 7A, ordinance and resolutions. And 7A is establishing various rates for water and sewer utility. Further discussion on this, is there a motion?
so moved.
Motion by Berto,
Second.
second by Roscoe. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, fee schedule for updated with the only thing that had changed has been the fee and lieu parking.
Well, there's a couple more. So there's the fee and lieu parking. And then Marina just had some minor, corrections, you know, how they're for their dates. But on page 33, you'll see there were some, changes to negligent or willful septage or discharge that, citation increased. And then the failure to clean septage receiving screen, a citation was established for that. A fee was established for that.
So moved.
Motion by Bertle,
Second.
second by Allison, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, 8A, post office. I had Julie put this on there last week ahead of a conversation that we had with the post office, and I think everybody should have gotten one of these flyers. Some time ago, it was put in motion, I think, probably 4 or 5 years ago, that we were going to have the post office move out from where they are now. So I think, was it 2 years ago, we sent a letter? Was it last year that we sent a letter to the post office saying we
Yeah, it was about when it first went in the CIP last year. We had said to them, you know, our contract is coming due soon. We put this in our CIP. We'd like to talk with you, see what type of needs you have. And if that would match what we had in the CIP. We didn't get a response for a very long time. Maybe like 9 months or something, or a year. And then we finally heard from them this fall. And I had explained to him, I said, well, you know, it took a long time to respond. It's not in the CIP for the coming year, it's in the next year. Can you give me your space needs? So we had some conversation about that. But then when Nate and I had to ask them to hold off on sending the letter, because I had an issue, I think some other people did too, with the way the letter was written. It kind of made it sound like the village was kicking them out.
I think Parks actually had brought that up.
Yeah, and we were like, that's not at all. I mean, we have this annual renewal, or I'm sorry, this renewal every 4 years. And they explained, look, it's a standard letter. You know, that's not what we mean. That what they do is they have to send it to everybody in the village in case there's a better deal out there for them. You know, is there somebody else out there that can provide services for them, a location, I mean, and maybe I don't. So they did that to solicit some ideas. I think he said he heard back from one person, and then I had referred him, the gentleman from who deals with the contract. And then I did refer him to one other person that I was aware, had wanted, was interested in the post office. So Nate and I also talked to him, about our current tax situation and said, look, right now it's not the time. I don't think you're gonna see anything move forward. You know, we're probably looking at renewing the if you don't find anything, renewing the contract for now. And if things change, then we can revise the contract. So we can either terminate it or revise it, and just move forward based on whether they find somebody and, you know, if it passes our budget process in the future.
So what he left with the impression is if we rescinded that letter, they would almost certainly renew with us and stay where they are.
Yeah, so what they, when he's talking about the letter, what he's referring to is the contract was coming due and he said, well, how about if we just sign a 1-year lease letter instead of a 4-year lease letter? So that it shows the intent to work together on this. And he said, if we're not gonna move forward right now, we would just rescind the 1-year letter and go into the 4-year contract, is what he was referring to.
Yeah.
I believe.
So in light of last week, I think that we should have the post office stay where they are and extend them out.
I agree.
I agree. For sure.
Have people spoken with the people at the post office? Are they unhappy or are they fine?
You know, it depends. So when we started the facilities process, the postmaster that the consultant met with had explained, you know, we don't have that, locally, they have no say, it's all the federal government. But they did have concerns about their trucks being hit down there by, people that use the parking lot. They had concerns about people putting beverage containers in the mail slots and getting the mail all wet. They had concerns about storage, because they had just, the post offices, it's my understanding they have to find their own funding, so they took Amazon deliveries on here to help pay their bills. And, they just, they're running out of space. I know when you go in there, their restrooms, the men and women share what looks like a utility closet with a toilet. You know, there's cleaning supplies and buckets. It's pretty bad in there, but so they, at that time, they had said this just isn't meeting our needs. Now, I heard that the current postmaster has told somebody that it's great. So, we did talk a little bit with Greg from the contracting company. And he said, yeah, it kind of depends on the postmaster. And that's why they don't really leave it up to the postmaster. They leave it up to the people at the federal level to decide where they go and when they go and what their needs are.
It would have been nice though on the postcard if they could have explained the paragraph a little bit better.
Yes, we did ask him before he went on vacation. We said, look, we want to talk about this letter before it goes out. And my understanding is it was shared with the board at the last meeting. I wasn't here, but it was shared with the board.
We discussed it at Parks
Yeah, it wasn't-
with you,
Not the board.
Yeah,
not the board.
Oh,
We
was it at
discussed
the-
it at Parks with you and asked that a letter go to our residents before.
Yeah, and so what happened is we scheduled this meeting. Well, I'm sorry, we told him we wanted to meet and talk. And he said, well, I'm leaving on vacation and I can't talk to you till a certain date. So we wrote him the day he got back. Hey, we need to talk to you. Didn't meet with us for a week. And in the meantime, they sent the letter out. So
Well, that's not a surprise. It's the United States Postal.
we weren't very happy with the process
Um,
and, but it is what it is. And he did explain, look, it's just what we have to do to see if there's.
Well,
to
and
be
I,
fair
and
to
I
everybody.
understand that, but my point being is that for somebody who is not familiar with the conversation around the post office,
Yeah.
and it's talking about, 2 different square footages and parking spaces. I mean, it should have said something where, if you have a property, a building, a vacant lot that you would like to talk to us about. It's just could have been a little more user friendly.
Like all federal forms. Uh-huh. It's not, they don't.
So,
They don't.
I think that what we can do, and we're not gonna change the post office. But we can get ahead of it and get that out there, months before this comes up again. We just have to remember it, and
So we want a 4-year lease? Is that it?
They offer a 4-year.
I think that's what we should go with.
Okay. Do we need a vote or what do we?
well, are they, because this is out there and somebody has contacted them and Julie gave them another person's name. I mean, I would still love to see the post office out of downtown. So will they, if the village says that we're willing to extend the lease 4 more years, are they still going to look at those other options and have communication with those other people?
It's my understanding, yes, they're gonna look at the best option for them, location and price wise.
Okay.
If the other ones are better for them, then they're probably not gonna renew their contract with us
So when's their lease up?
this year.
When?
Can't remember the month, April maybe.
Well, that's important. When's the month? We know, April?
I don't have the contract.
I mean, that's like 5 months.
The impression I got from him is this process would stop if we rescinded the letter.
So we need some clarification then. Because that's not what Denise is hoping would happen.
No, my understanding is we'll get clarification, because
So
my
you guys
understanding is
both-
there's,
Okay, you guys heard different things. Okay.
Yeah, but he's there, what I recall him saying is if you rescind that letter, this whole process stops. So what exactly that means, we can get clarification.
Do we need consensus to give them what we all wish for?
Did we decide we want a 4-year lease, or did we decide we don't want?
I'd like a 4-year lease. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
I'd like a 4-year lease.
Yeah, that's fine, but I'm hoping that they would continue the conversations with the other two entities.
Which is
If-
great if it's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Agreed.
when
I
they say everything stops, does everything stop just on what the village's vision was and that plan? But the other still moves forward.
I'm pretty sure what I took away from that is the whole process stops. We'll get clarification on there and we'll try and go for a 4-year. If they can't get somebody else, but we are not going to push them out of there and have them go nowhere.
Well, the only thing about having them work with someone else is that we have no control over the lease. And we have no control over the length of the lease. And that could be problematic. Just saying.
It could be a problem, but that also takes a burden off of us that we've taken.
Understand that.
I'm
we
very
lose all-
uneasy about having a burden that's.
Understand, we lose all control. We lose all control.
I would say that it's worth that risk. For what the obligation of the village fund. But understand,
If they
that
decide
is,
that we're not gonna be in Sister Bay anymore and they leave that lease.
which is why we.
I'm just saying that if we own the building and we own the lease, we have some control. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not suggesting they're gonna do that. You know, I don't think they will.
What we
but-
would do is that there would be a 4-year extension here if they can't find something else. That's what we want. That's the message I want to convey to the board.
Right.
That's what I'm taking from the board.
Gotcha.
That, no, you're not gonna have nowhere to go. If you can't find something else, yes, you can come back
Right.
here. Please look at somewhere else if you can.
Gotcha.
That's
'Cause
the
they'll
message
pay-
I'm going to convey.
Right, I mean, they're gonna pay market rate. They're not gonna pay above that. And I'm not quite sure what they're looking at in terms of of existing buildings, but chances are there would need to be some work done there. I just wanted to say that, that's all. I just wanted to say that. at
Sure.
this point we have.
Sure.
I think Sally has a question.
Yes.
Question and a comment. What do they pay us in rent per month?
Not very much.
Almost $1,600,
1,600?
just under, yep.
Just under that, okay. Another comment was, on that card, it also said they're happy to go within 2 miles of their current. Location, and I don't know if that was the just automatic language that went in there, but I thought they always told us that they had to be downtown or something, so that surprised me. And
That's what we were always told.
Yeah.
I never talked to them, but that's,
I think it's the message is different from the local postmaster versus the leasing folks. And they also said, he did say, we would like to stay closer to downtown, but that is kind of the boilerplate to this out.
so what's 2 miles north of here?
Liberty Grove. Okay,
I would advocate for getting it out of downtown too, but.
I mean, no more left turns into there and stuff like that
It's a
too, but
mess.
2 miles that way and that way is Liberty Grove. 2 miles south is where you to Ephraim.
yeah, you're probably in Liberty Grove again. I guess the point of this though is it would be nice to have them out of downtown, but we can't, I don't feel like we can spend money.
Mm-mm.
That's,
No.
to boil it down, that's,
No, if they're paying 1,600 now, what, pay 1,800 maybe, or 1,700 for the new
Yeah.
lease, maybe.
Mhm.
So we just need clarification, I guess, on the next meeting.
I think I've got a direction to go, I understand it for. Yeah. we'll report back.
Yeah, we're giving
Yeah.
you the power to deliver that message.
Yep. I'm good. Okay, the tax assessor discussion, 2025 tax levy.
Okay, so at the last meeting, the board had some questions about, some information about prior year's corrections that showed up in the DOR website. And they asked me to talk to the village assessor. I did try to summarize my conversation in those, the accounting paperwork that was sent out to you on Monday. But the assessor is here, Amy and Zach, from the assessor's office are here, and they can answer any questions. They can explain how that whole correction process works, what it means when you see that. And I think maybe, unless there's questions, we just turn it over to them to explain the situation.
Yeah, okay, present to them.
Sure.
Next question.
We did the revaluation in 2023. The $35 million wasn't an error, it was more of a correction from that 2023 reval due to the deadline put out by the state. And since we had a revaluation, every year, the municipal assessment report is due second Monday in June. If you're gonna be doing a revaluation, so those are gonna be all the estimates that need to be done by that second Monday in June. Then the equalized values come out August 15th, and the final MARs or the municipal assessment reports are due that first Monday in October. Also, the clerk's statement of assessment is due that second Monday in June. Since the assessment roll isn't complete by that second Monday in June, I create an estimated MAR based on sales, new construction, any shifts. And that's what the state uses for their values for that year. And then once I submit my final MAR, after the board review, then whatever changes there are, they make that change as a correction for the following year after that. So then it's gonna look like a inflated year for the 1 year time period. And then the year after that, that correction is gonna be. And typically this happens with any, not just the survey, any municipality that does a revaluation, that an estimated MAR is submitted by the June date, and then the final, after the board review, and any correction, whether it's plus or minus, is that going to be on for the year after that. As we did speak with the DOR, they have been seeing at least 50% throughout the state of Wisconsin that they are 50% of assessors are submitting estimates instead of doing their finals by the June date. They're making more correction for that following.
Zach, I didn't write fast enough. So you said the report is due in June, and then what was the August 15th date?
That is the when equalized values.
That's when the state publishes, they send a preliminary report on August 2nd.
Yeah.
That's the one that we did receive the preliminary report.
Yep.
And then what was in October?
That's going to be when the final MAR is.
Thank you.
The 15th of August is, like, isn't it open to the municipalities on the 2nd of August when you get
The preliminary report.
The preliminary is, and then it's final out that
Yeah.
way.
Yep, the preliminaries are on the 2nd of August, and there's a time frame if you wanted to challenge it, and then the finals are due on August.
And so then the correction for the 2023 revamp is made on the 2024 numbers.
Correct, yep.
So at the meeting, Amber said that the timing of the TID value assessment roll had an effect. The assessment roll, there are corrections in the assessment roll. There are changes in there that have impacts on your total value at the end of the day. And I think all of us thought that there was some sort of a problem or an error or something in the assessment, and there was not. You had to submit it in June. You couldn't guess. So you submitted the correction, meaning, because we were in the middle of a reassess, you submitted the correction of 35 million on August 2nd, which is the preliminary one that we got. And then the finalized one was on the 15th. That was the way that Amber explained it to us. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You said roughly half of the assessors are using that estimated value for the June.
Because of the way that the real estate market's been doing, there's been a lot of revaluations. More revaluations happening more often. They usually did them 8 to 10 years. Now we're seeing them roughly every 4 to 5 years, and more municipalities are coming out of compliance. So more assessors are using using that estimated by the June date and then pushing everything back. For me, I try to wait till all those equalized values come out for August 15th to finalize all my values, to become closer to, or so my assessed values are closer to the equalized values, so the municipality or the village can stay in compliance for the, staying closer to that 100%.
Now, the last time you were here, you said we were out of compliance and we would have to have a reval. And again, sooner than, the 4 years. And at that time, you talked about next year doing a reval, but I heard somewhere that so many of your clients have to have a reval that ours has now been pushed off to 2026. Is that correct?
And
In the contract, when you originally signed the contract last time, it was agreed that it would be 2027.
2027 will be the reval.
And that's what we talked about.
But does that mean that you're doing the work in 26, or are you doing the work in 27?
The field work will be done in 2026.
Okay,
But the values and all the office work will be done in 2027.
okay,
And we won't charge, there won't be a charge, well, it doesn't matter, but typically we would never charge for that, but it's the same amount each year anyways.
Right.
It wouldn't be a factor anyway.
right.
And when we were reassessed in 2020,
2020 and then again in 2023.
and did the same thing happen where we had a couple million or more, I don't know, whatever it was. Here, that's 35 million this year. What was it that year?
in 2020, it looked like there was a $15 million correction.
Okay,
Showed up on the 2021 year, which was the following.
okay.
The second page that I gave you shows the history of the major class comparison and how the
okay.
village has been out of compliance and in compliance.
Great.
That's very helpful. Thank you for printing that out. So. I don't know what to say. Everything that we have been through with our budget this year and taking the deeper dive into how all of this works together, or how it actually works, it seems to me that there is so much that is out of our control.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
the estimates, the corrections, reassessments,
Right, this is, well, we get to a property tax, but the reassessments, and this isn't 24 was affected, but for 25, we won't be affected by a reassess, first of all.
right,
And, there are people that do, I think we learned, there are communities that do it, do it with the TID in and the TID out. The people that do it with the TID in, the TID out, are just looking at their operating budget, period. It's a deliberate, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just a deliberate decision. It's the operating budget. So to me, we have a decision. If you want to do it with TID in, it's a different conversation, but it's going to affect the operating budget, period. That's it. How close? In particular, if you want to get the tax rate to its map, if you want to get the tax rate to where you wanted to get it to be. So,
well, The letter that Amber sent us,
As a recap of
thank you,
her,
Vlad,
her
right,
conversation. or
you know, the third bullet point. Equalized value and assessed value increased, so even with a flat mill rate, the tax will increase.
Mhm.
The idea behind keeping the levy flat should be based on the dollar amount in the budget, not the mill rate.
That's-
Budget, but it's not
So here.
our final.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, something
Please, Glenn.
we did discuss with Amber, Adam, and Yvette. that There's a high chance. I don't wanna say for mistake, but from the mill rate came out not the way what you planned. And it's, like she said, it's a complicated formula, so many different variables. You're gonna try to control one, the other one gonna spot out in different place. You can try. But there's a high probability, very high probability it's gonna come out not the way we want. It's in the simple,
In the most
So much.
simplest of terms, yes. We can strive for it, but whether or not we accomplish that goal is a whole different.
Well, if this was
you
a
can be
very-
close, can be very
Sure.
close, but
If this was a blind spot and we knew, and our auditor knew. According, what she has in writing here, this was a blind spot on our part, meaning the board. And the auditor knew that, but did not know that we had promised, and that our residents that. That our property tax would be flat. That, you know. If that was a blind spot from us, for us, who was supposed to tell us that it's. That there's no guarantee that's gonna happen. But, you know.
Well, I don't think anybody thought about telling us because what I perceived from all of the communication and the last couple of meetings that we have had is that they just thought that we wanted a 0% increase on operating.
Right.
So why would somebody say something different? Because our operating budget did stay the same.
Right. It just, there was a big piece of the puzzle that wasn't anywhere.
And it hasn't been anywhere for at least the last 7 years and probably
And
longer.
we probably never promised that the taxes would be flat. That's my point.
Right.
But if we did that,
And see, it was years ago when we did that. It was very easy because we didn't have any TIDs.
They weren't doing well.
Or they weren't doing well, but I'm talking about way back.
Yes. Before
Okay.
2017.
but maybe, I mean, now that we did have the TIDs, maybe that's something that, anyway, it's,
can I add something?
so.
And if you don't have a kid, you submit only one mill rate worksheet.
Right.
Then it's matches the budget.
Yep.
100%.
Just a clarification, because meeting of finance, each of the Adam from Baird explained this separation as a TIF separation. And is that still the same language that we're talking tonight, or is there something, because I missed the last meeting that wasn't?
Can you
that,
repeat, I'm sorry, Dick, can you start over and repeat that question?
well, when Adam was here and
Uh-huh.
on the finance meeting, it was explained that it was a TIF related issue that brought us to the new mill rate.
Correct.
And is that still the case, or is this discussion? I didn't understand this discussion.
This discussion was that the TID didn't have, the reassessed amount in it. And that, so basically it was the TID, yes, still the TID. Yes,
Thank you.
sure.
And at the last meeting, something was brought up about this $35 million. And so we had asked staff to contact the powers that be and to explain that to us and how that happens, and because we didn't understand a correction and error, what does that mean? How does it land?
Right.
So I mean, we unfortunately, we've been getting. Our learning curve has been huge these last few weeks and a whole bunch of stuff that. Unfortunately, we just were unaware of.
And in the board explanation that Amber gave us, she doesn't mention the piece about the reassess and the correction, but that was part of it.
Let's see, the tax levy timeline.
Thank you, Amy and Zach.
Thank you. Okay, that was sent to us yesterday, so.
It's last night. And about 6 o'clock.
Hey, do we want to go through this, or is there
So
questions?
this
on
is
it?
something I had asked for at the meeting, the finance meeting that we had. Sorry, board meeting, beg your pardon. Nope, it was at the finance, beg your pardon. Because I just wanted to understand the timeline, you know, and how things were done. It kind of flows into the discussion we're having now and Amber's recap of her discussion. So I thought it was good for me to take a look at and understand. I thought it would be beneficial for the trustees as well. You know, and also something to work from if in fact we need to make adjustments, because we talked a lot about the fact that it was a process issue. So if this was the process, then, and we can examine it, maybe not at the meeting tonight, but if this was the process and we can examine it and understand, you know, is there a way to do it differently? I mean, none of us are accountants, but we do have someone that can advise us on, this is the current process. And is there a better way to do it? Not a different way to do it, so that, first of all, we're all fully aware and knowledgeable of what the process is, but also that where we understand the outcomes a little better. So that's why this is here.
I think I probably want to bring this up under 11 too, for items to be referred.
Yeah, that could go to finance. Yeah.
So just to note, the finance committee did vote to revisit the process when they meet in January. So they're gonna, last week, that was one of the motions that came out of there.
And if at all possible, before we leave tonight, if we could maybe look at our calendars and get that scheduled now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, any more discussion on that? You'll probably hear that come back from finance in a month or two. Okay, contract for the administration building, construction drawings, McMahon.
And so the Parks Committee, we did the RFP, came back, they reviewed, I think it says in here 5 bids, and decided to go with McMahon. So the contract is in your packet.
Well, how are we moving on?
What do you mean?
Are we not addressing? Are we not addressing what we're going to do?
We don't have it on here. No, we mean like we don't.
You talking about what we're gonna do about the taxes?
Yes. There was a recommendation from finance. We had the board meeting. We talked about something. We had more information because people got back to us. At that meeting, we all said that we felt that we needed to process all of that information. I thought we were going to make a determination on where we go from here. Am I just remembering wrong?
I mean, that was Thursday night. There, so this packet went out Friday. There's just not enough time to get that in there, and also the thing we discovered on Thursday is, it doesn't matter if this happens in the end of December or the beginning of January, because
Sure.
we won't be able to do this till February.
Right.
So I did not see a way we could turn packet around and get that in here.
Okay,
within less than the.
just so everybody
Yeah.
understands that that conversation is not over and it will be at our
Yes.
January.
Yes.
Okay.
So
That
then,
we're
is it-
just not ignoring,
No, I'm sorry, thank you for bringing that up, that was,
okay,
that's why it is in there, because it was how many? It was not even a full workday for staff to get that.
okay, and that's understandable.
and then, is it advisable to pay only half of our property taxes? Just in case there is
If,
a refund, because they said if you only pay half, then it's easier to refund versus if you pay the full amount. I mean, you wouldn't have to get a refund if you only pay half. If we go that direction, which we might even not go that direction.
I think I would not give
say,
anybody,
do what you normally do,
yes, exactly, that's what I would say,
Okay.
or whatever you want to do.
yes.
Just because you've done something the same way for, 10 years doesn't mean that that applies this year, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Just wanted
Oh, thank you, Denise,
for
that's
whoever is
good-
with
good
us
point.
to
Thank you,
be aware of that.
Can I ask a question?
yes.
What was the February wait till date for?
So what the state had said, I think it was the Department of Revenue had said that if we wanted, and the county had said, if you want to do this, you need to wait till the first tax date, like the first installment is due January 31st. After that is done, then you could, if you're going to do a refund, that's when you would do it. It's, the county almost certainly couldn't turn it around between now and then. And you'd also have a lot of other complications because there would still be that amount due, not everybody had paid at that point. So it would have been extremely cumbersome, but not that it's, gonna be not cumbersome, but it would have been even more cumbersome if we'd done it before that January
So
31st.
that's if you decide to use the county to accomplish that.
We have to use the county to accomplish that because the tax bills have to be reprinted. Because we cannot, the state will not let us issue a rebate. That is not legal for us to do. So we need to have the dollars and cents of what this is actually gonna cost before we can make a decision. And that information was presented to us Thursday night. And not entirely, that was just the rough costs were presented to say, okay, well, there's going to be this expense, we didn't even have an estimate on it, that was all presented for up there.
Well, and even if we did it in-house, if we had staff deal with it, it was still well over $20,000.
Yeah.
Not including charge out rates for time, meaning you're not doing anything else.
Right.
And then the cost of having the county still reprint.
Thank you.
And the contract for the admin building. Construction drawings. It's all in here. I don't feel like we should move ahead with this until we have some clarity on the tax issue that we have. In January, we're gonna lose 1 month to it. It's not likely gonna happen a lot in that month, but I think that we should keep with some of the number of people in the public have told us and say, pause. That's my inclination on this. I don't know how everybody else feels.
I was feeling the way you were feeling.
Yeah, I have to agree with Nate as well. I think, we should resolve that.
I don't see how if we can keep our taxes at zero this year, how with all these capital improvements, we're going to be able to go backwards. I mean, we're going to have to make up for some of the places where we didn't increase this year. We're going to have to do that next year. So I'm not sure how
Well,
we can keep that.
Keep in mind that we didn't amend the budget. So the $330,000 is still in there until we amend the CIP in the budget. We actually haven't done that yet concretely. I think that there's still desire to do it, but that was not, we did not do that last Thursday.
But this dollar amount. This has to be done no matter what. And once we have construction drawings, if we choose not to move forward this year on building it, we still have the drawings. This was this was not in the CIP though, correct? This was,
This is part of the
It's
CIP.
CIP.
This is part of the CIP expense, because we do so much for the building and that includes the design. Any borrowing on it though,
okay, so this was wrapped up into the 3 million,
right?
okay,
And then
All right.
Amber had, if I understand correctly, Amber had said the reducing your debt doesn't help with your situation with this tax levy. And if I remember correctly, said you don't actually want to go and reduce your debt levy. And the other thing I know is that the borrowing for this, you would not start paying on until 26. So it wouldn't affect your 25 budget. But does that sound correctly?
Yeah, so she did mention, if you decide to lower levy, the only place you can lower levy is going to be from the debt service levy. And she explained the reason why you don't want to do that, because it's gonna backfire down the road.
Because you can only increase your budget 3% every year, so if you drop it, that means in the future, you can only go up 3%. So you're kind of hamstringing yourself to stay low. Whereas right now, you're in a good position where you can borrow. And you do have good bonding rates.
I don't think holding the contract for a month will make a difference.
no, okay,
Until
now
we
that
get
I
through
understand it
finance.
was wrapped into that, because I just didn't remember it specifically in the CIP, so I thought maybe it was someplace else, but it's wrapped into that, so we don't know if we even borrowing for that yet in light of our current situation. So then, and how much was the amount? I'm trying to, there's two
About
pages,
150,000.
150. Yeah, I think we can wait till after finance and the board have a bigger discussion, after we meet in January.
Consensus?
I agree.
Kurt, have another from you? Okay. Okay, and the same thing for E?
And is this wrapped up in the 3 million also, or is this separate? Okay.
Okay, on to the monthly finance report and appropriations. Let's do
Make a motion, we pay the bills for $235,934.02.
motion by Whittle,
Second.
second by Roscoe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Both motion carried. Okay, staff reports. Bring there.
I would like to add something to the January Perks, meeting agenda. And that would,
January agenda, okay.
that would be, parking on Highway 57 for the Chris Kindle Market. I mean, those guys, our staff, our park staff has roped off so much. We have put up signs. There is now parking. People can find the money to go and spend money at the Chris Kindle Market, but they can't spend the $10 to be in the parking lot that's there.
Why is
or use-
it the village's responsibility to even talk about it?
Because I think that we need to give the Historical Society some direction, and I have an idea that they need to hire a police officer to start writing tickets, because on that curve and the way that they're parking. is
That's Liberty Grove. Not
That's
just
Liberty
bad.
Grove, but they're attending, it doesn't matter.
Still Liberty Grove. Honestly, I don't think it's art, because I was there for 2 days, and both days there was a policeman there. And both days he drove around and used his speaker and told people to move, and both days they moved. And both days also, all 3 weekends, the Historical Society had staff out on 57 asking them to move. I mean, it's otherwise, I don't.
Well, can we have a conversation?
Okay, but I mean, besides everything else we do, what else are we supposed to do? They're parking in Liberty Grove.
I just want to have a conversation at parks.
Okay, I'll look
I
at it.
think the parking is grotesque out that way. We almost hit people going down 57 on one of the nights. You're coming down the
Would you
highway.
want to
and they're opening the
volunteer
doors.
and stand out there and tell them not to park? there?
Yeah, and also we called the sheriff's department, they said it's legal to park on the highway if you're not in the fog lane. So the white line, if not beyond the white line, it's legal. And it is Liberty Grove.
I just want to have a conversation.
I'd like to keep our guests safe. Bring in the tourists and kill them, man.
Well, that's
Liberty
nice.
Grove should,
You know, we're in a public meeting,
I'm sorry,
when
what?
you said that.
Okay,
Right on.
so is there any? We'll move on to committee reports. Finance Committee. Met last week.
I think we've gone over all of this, but did anybody have any questions?
Fire Board?
We are meeting on the 30th.
Green Tier.
Green Tier has not met because I'm still working on the plastics project. Met with Jeremy at Sunshine Resources. They're very interested in creating a countywide facility. I committed myself to help them work with all the communities together and writing grants to make it happen. I connected with them with Trex. So right now they're in fact finding mission. They said they're gonna go out to Minnesota and tour the Merrick facility that Going Garbage looked at. And then we're gonna meet again and discuss next steps.
Awesome.
They also asked if I could help them find a shredded paper recycler. So that one I'm gonna ask the Green Tier people to work on, because I'm kind of absorbed with finding all the facts and data and everything on the 6 recycling.
Thank you.
Historical Society.
it's in the minutes.
Do you have a new chair for the farmer's market? You know, if they've announced one?
Remember right now, who it is.
So they
Not
did,
Roberta anymore.
right, but they did put someone in place? Okay, great. I was
Might be.
curious.
John Lachewski, but
Housing Committee.
So the housing committee, they had another speaker at their last meeting. They wanted me to reach out to what's the place in Colorado you always?
Telluride?
No, Crested Butte,
No, I think it was, anyways, I think it was Telluride.
Telluride.
So,
no, I didn't send you Telluride.
You said Crested Butte, but they talked about Telluride.
yeah. So anyways, I did reach out to the foundation and the community of Telluride to have somebody talk to us about their model, because that's the one that's pretty well known. And we didn't get a response, but I did meet with a builder who is currently working on some home designs that we can take to the plan commission to make sure our ordinances allow the type of housing that can be affordable.
Library Commission.
She had notes in there from the past 2 months, but not from the previous week. And there was an issue with the picnic table being damaged, and we had discussions of that, and there were issues in here about what was gonna be done with the tables. And they had ordered one based on figuring that they were gonna get the insurance coverage, and found out later that they did not, so there was like a 2,000 plus charge to the library, which they didn't know where they were gonna get the funds, and I talked to Julie about it. And she was saying that possibly we can change some stuff around with their CIP, and then it'll be covered. Because they didn't understand that there was a $2,500 deductible, and ordered the table as was requested.
Or they actually have a contingency in their budget that they can use to pay.
They can use the money. Another thing, they were trying to have their maintenance guy do some tree trimming in back, which I thought from the start was, I don't know how great that is if the guy's not trained to really be taking down some big trees along the perimeter. And I was thinking that that's probably something that parks would do with maintenance, and then I find out that they do have their own lawn maintenance and all that kind of stuff, so I don't know how they are separate when they have actually village property that library is on, who takes care of it?
Yeah, there's certain items that we have committed to doing for them, and then if they want to do something beyond that,
They need to check with you.
yeah, because we also have charge out rates if they want us to do stuff
Okay.
that's not in.
Marina Committee,
We have not met since our last board meeting.
Parks,
The agenda or the minutes are in there. Is there any questions?
I have one question. Is there a follow-up regarding the snowmobile trail map? Was that approved?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
personnel,
You didn't meet.
plan,
Minutes are in there. Any questions?
SBA,
Yes, we met. Our meeting's always been after a board meeting. We have a meeting tomorrow, so in the last meeting, our chair, Drew, stepped down. And I just found out about a week or two ago that our treasurer also, we have 2 vacant seats on our board. Voting, hopefully a couple members, and tomorrow at our meeting, we're presenting our budget tomorrow morning, and hopefully filling in those 2 seats. Otherwise, we discussed the committee that is doing the parade committee. Will have an update hopefully next month, and they've been working on a resolution and guidelines and whatever for the parade thing. Like I said, budget will be presented tomorrow, and I think that was it. I did mention the bus situation, if they had a place to store the bus over the winter. A couple board members were going to ask around if they could get a spot to store it, just so it's not out in the cold and weather. We'll hear about that.
There, just real quick, there could be real insurance ramifications with that, so we need to talk about that, because there could be some challenges if you're storing public property on private. So,
Because they were also wondering too, because it's village property, why does SBA have to find a place to store it? So.
nobody told us we had that kind of, we always leave it in the parking lot.
Well, it's a brand new
It's a new
$140,000
bus,
vehicle,
yeah.
so that's why it's probably a good idea to find a place. for
Yeah,
it.
that's good to know, because nobody's mentioned that to us at
Okay.
all, so we can try and find a place as well.
Mhm.
We just weren't aware that that was a concern with SBA.
Yeah, I guess ideally that would be
I'll look
best
at that.
because it's.
I'll see if we can find something.
But otherwise, yeah, I'll have an update on what happened.
Question, please. Brand new bus,
Yeah,
brand new bus.
that was purchased.
Are they both in that marina parking lot? I see 2 buses over in the marina parking lot.
This is,
You're talking about behind, I think you're talking about the long-term parking. One
Okay, in
is,
the
I don't know
long-term
if the old
parking,
one's
there's
still
2
there. I guess
buses.
it's still there.
this is the
Yeah.
shuttle, the white shuttle I'm talking about.
there's the
one's
old
still
shuttle
there.
is still there.
Yeah, I see it in the second all the time.
Okay, there's 2 in there. Where's this new bus at?
It's
One
one
of
of
those
the
2.
It's one of those 2. I looked at them. They don't look, one doesn't look brand new, man.
One is not, one is,
Okay, here's a question I have. You go by any of the schools, all the school buses are outside forever. Are they in some different condition than these buses that were purchased for this tourism?
Probably.
But they have to be in a garage?
Well, they're driven all the time, the school buses.
I don't know where school buses are stored, sorry.
Usually at the bus driver's home.
yeah, but or we've
Yeah.
got some that are in that same parking lot.
But they're moved around every day. The shuttle is going to.
Well,
They're just running on gas, man. You
But anyway,
fill them up and they sit there.
I don't know if someone found. Or not.
okay. That's good. We can look at, make sure the villages.
No, you know what, if we voted someone in to fill this to see.
Tourism zone?
They meet Thursday.
At the tourism zone meeting, at the executive meeting, which was, I think, about a week or so ago. They, which was it was an open meeting for all the, for any tourism commissioner to go. The chair asked for, Destination Door County to cut their budget by 20% and take $1 million out of their budget. So they went back and took a look at it, and I think the plan is to then come back to the DCTZ in January with a revised budget. We have a full board meeting tomorrow, and looking at it, most of it's closed. So that's gonna be about, issues with room tax collection and things like that. So that's from the DCTZ point of view. The DCTZ budget was passed. And then there were some questions about the DDC budget, so that will not be presented in December.
Sewer, water, utility?
We did not meet this month.
Village Health Planning Task Force?
We did not meet.
Okay. And get a motion to accept the committee reports?
Second.
Roscoe, second by Allison, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, items to be placed on the future agenda. There's a couple things that we should want to talk about at finance, and we'll pick a date after we're adjourned here. Anything else? Okay.
So the next, let's see, the January board meeting will be January. Today's the 16th, so these on around the 17th, okay. And then tonight, we're gonna figure out when.
So it'll be the 21st.
All right, so we'll figure out when finance will meet, okay.
Okay. The adjourn will be in order.
Second.
Second by Harv. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.